Before dawn, in camp on the northern frontier, a man lies awake and does not want to move. He knows exactly what the day will ask of him. He knows it will still be there in 10 minutes, and the small argument begins. The smallest argument there is, whether to rise now or stay a little longer in the warmth. Nothing is at stake, no one is watching. If he loses, no one will ever know. He loses often enough that he begins writing the argument down. Stay here, where it's warm, but it's pleasant here. Were you made for pleasure, then, or for the work of a human being? This man is Marcus Aurelius. He commands the largest army on earth, and he is negotiating with blanket. Sit with that for a moment, because the argument in that tent never changes shape, only scale. It returns later, in front of larger things. The work you keep circling, the conversation you keep postponing, the risk available today that you will probably decline. The stakes rise, the structure is identical. We will carry weeks of dread to avoid a few minutes of difficulty. Why? Because the discomfort was never in the act, it was in what the act might reveal about us. And we are the first people who can build a life in which nothing difficult ever has to be met, not a comfortable life. Comfort isn't new, an engineered one. Every discomfort now has an exit beside it. Boredom, shame, uncertainty about who you are. Each can be interrupted before it finishes speaking, and it works. That's the problem. It works well enough that a man can go years without ever discovering what he is made of. Now, here is where almost every version of this conversation goes wrong. You have heard that hardship makes people stronger. It doesn't, not by itself, not automatically. Marcus knew this, and he said it more carefully than his modern admirers do. He compared the mind to fire. Fire takes what falls into it and turns it into more fire. But he added a condition almost nobody quotes. A small flame, he wrote, would be smothered by that very same material. Only a fire already burning strong rises higher because of it. So the question was never, does difficulty strengthen you? The question was, how big is the fire and how heavy is the thing falling into it? Psychology arrived at the same place 18 centuries later. Researchers studying people who came out of catastrophe genuinely changed for the better found that the growth never came from the event. It came from the struggle afterward, the slow, disorienting work of rebuilding a picture of the world that event had shattered. The wound is not the teacher. What you do in the wreckage is the teacher. Epictetus understood this from the inside. He was born a slave. He was lame. He taught in exile after emperor expelled the philosophers from Rome. And what he says about hardship is not that it's good. He says it's revealing. Difficulty is condition under which a man becomes visible to others and to himself. Easy circumstances tell you almost nothing about the person living inside them. Then he offers an image more honest than anything in modern self-improvement. When trouble arrives, he says, it's as though a trainer has matched you against a rough young man in the wrestling ring, not to break you, to make you. And notice what the image quietly assumes, a trainer choosing an opponent hard enough to demand anything you have, not so hard that it ends you. He never claimed every opponent is a good opponent. Some things that happen to people are simply too heavy. They don't build character, they take it. Anyone who tells you all suffering is secretly a gift either hasn't suffered much or has stopped being honest. Viktor Frankl had more standing than almost anyone to romanticize pain, and he refused. Meaning is possible in spite of suffering, he insisted, not because of it. So the real claim is narrower than the motivational version, and much stranger. It isn't that the obstacle is good, it's that your response to it is the one piece of material you never stop owning. Seneca understood that if you can't choose what arrives, you can at least choose your training. He told his friend Lucius to set aside a few days now and then, the cheapest food, the roughest clothes, no comfort, and to ask himself one question while living that way: is this the condition that I feared? Read that again, because it isn't about toughness, it's about measurement. Fear survives on vagueness. It needs the dark. The moment you walk into a thing and take its actual dimensions, it shrinks to its real size, which is nearly always smaller than the version you have been carrying, which brings us back to the frontier and to the strangest fact about that book. Marcus says the same thing across 12 books. Get up, do the work, stop performing, stop resenting people. He wrote it during a plague that emptied Roman cities, on campaign, having already buried most of his children, and he never published a word of it. Do you understand what the repetition is? It's evidence of failure. He kept writing it down because he kept not doing it. The most famous Stoic in history spent his life losing this argument and returning to it anyway. That is not a lesser version of the philosophy, that is the philosophy. And it explains why the unwatched morning matters so much. Psychologists once believed suffering teaches people to give up. Creatures exposed to pain they couldn't escape eventually stopped trying. Even after escape became possible, they called it learned helplessness. And for 50 years that was the lesson. Then the researchers who discovered it published a paper saying they'd had it backwards. Giving up isn't learned, giving up is the default. What a nervous system does under prolonged stress, what has to be learned, what can be built, is the expectation of control. The discovery that your actions matter. Sit with that. Helplessness isn't something life teaches you. It's the condition you arrive in. Agency is the thing that has to be earned again and again, in small repetitions, almost always in the dark. And you will not be able to arrange your way out of this. That's the part no philosophy can soften. Some hardship is optional. The last one isn't. Everyone alive is walking towards something that will not negotiate. A life built entirely on avoidance meets with that one unavoidable thing with no practice at all. Which is why there is a kind of dignity that doesn't require reality to cooperate first. In the year 524, a Roman statesman named Boethius sat in a cell awaiting execution on charges he insisted were false. He had lost his office, his fortune, his name, and soon his life. He had every reason to spend those final months in rage. Instead, he wrote a book, imagining philosophy herself as a woman who visits his cell to argue with him about fortune. It became one of the most widely read works in Europe for the next 1,000 years. He didn't write it because suffering had ennobled him. He wrote it because it was the last act still available to him, and he took it. That's dignity, not winning, not being spared, keeping ownership of your response after everything else has been confiscated. So here's the question underneath all of it, and I would like you to actually answer it rather than just hear it. What if the thing you most want removed from your path is the thing demanding you become someone different? Because if that's true, removing it wouldn't help. You would arrive on the other side unchanged, and the next obstacle would find you exactly as unprepared as this one did. And that famous line of Marcus's, the impediment becomes the way. Almost nobody knows what he was actually writing about. Read it in context, and it isn't about mountains or misfortune or fate. He wrote it about people, difficult, obstructive, exhausting, people who kept getting in the way of his work. Even them, he decided, even that could become the work. We spend our lives waiting for the road to get easier, but the difficulty was never an interruption of the journey. Some roads exist only because they are hard, and the man who arrives is never the man who set out. He was assembled along the way, out of exactly the parts he wished he could skip. Somewhere on the cold frontier, an emperor decided he had lost that argument enough times to write it down. There will be a moment before you move too. Nothing will be at stake. No one will be watching. What stands in the way does not disappear. It becomes the way.